Ages have passed. Ages have passed shaving the head, yet there is no union with Rama, the Lord. Recitation of God's names, you recite the names of God, Rama, Nam, in futile, while the mind is engaged elsewhere. Rama Nam kanu kya kare, man ke aure kaam. Man ke aure kaam. So I repeat what was said, the essence of it. Kabirji, thanks Gayatri Ma. Kabirji is criticizing those who practice spirituality externally. The external practice of spirituality is being condemned or criticized. There's so much importance to the mere rituals. The rituals are mere an outer shell, but an over adherence of these rituals have no significance. They don't really play a significant role in your transformation, in your spiritual transformation. So he is attacking all those people. I think there was a concern, are these people who are practicing these rituals, are these hypocrites? No, there are people who are hypocritical. There are people who are putting on a false garb of spirituality. These people have just picked up these ritualistic practices. They're picking it up. Remember the often used concept. They get into these rituals as a mere end in itself. They think these rituals by themselves are everything, and they give you the fruit of spiritual transformation. He's saying they don't. He's just referring to one such practice where people keep tonsering their head. As you know, the symbolic representation, why you tonsor a head? You tonsor a head to symbolize that you have got rid of your worldly attachments and desires, because the head and the hair is in particular symbolizes each strain of hair could be taken as each desire, each vasana. So you have countless. Some of them have naturally progressed spiritually, so they have been liberated from many desires and attachments. So it is a blessing if you have progressed. Sooner the better for you, but you may not agree to it. However, symbolic. Don't take it literally. Just because little less hair you have doesn't mean you're more spiritual. It's symbolic. So people tonsor their head, and when you tonsor, it symbolizes that you got rid of your worldly desires and attachments. So you go to a pilgrimage or you go to a temple and you do that. You're announcing in a spiritual environment that I have given up the worldly attachments, the worldly attractions. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm only interested in seeking the Lord. That's the kind of implication. And also you do notice that some people leave a small tuft when they shave the whole head. They leave a tuft. The tuft symbolizes that I've given up most of my worldly desires, but I'm left with a few desires. A small tuft conveys that now my purpose of life is very clear. I'm no more meandering in the world. I'm not attracted to many things. My purpose is very clear. I want to seek the higher. Again, a deep philosophical implication. Now, there are many such practices. I don't want to get into it, but the objective of how to measure your spiritual growth, and there's no better judge than yourself. And here, please be true to yourself. You got to be true to yourself as to, you may agree, you may not agree, you may toe to all what these great men have said, you may have your opinion of yourself. Fair enough. But one critical test to know how spiritual you are, and you are the best judge to measure yourself. And you ask Sriniji, he's thinking hard. When somebody holds the head, that means they're thinking hard. And I need to catch that person, and I caught him. Solungo.
Pranam Guruji, how are you?
All well, sir. Now, how I'll be if you from now on depends on what your answer will be.
Well, I think you picked me up because I recently did torture my head. So I don't know whether that was a poke at me or figurative or literal. I don't know. And it was not for, it was more a wow or for somebody, that's all. But I did torture. So I'm a living example.
No, I didn't intend, because I did connect last time when we spoke of this, so I don't understand. But if it related, then you take it, it is no intention.
Meaning? I didn't follow you.
No, what I mean is if you found it apt, connected to your situation, please take it, but I didn't intend that way.
Yeah. Well, it was in one case, Okay. I don't know whether it's coincidental or not, but the person seemed to have survived what she was suffering. And that's all.
Right. No, absolutely. That's another topic. I will not get into it. You're dragging me into it now. Please, I don't. No, you please repeat the question I'm asking you.
No, I missed the point there. I apologize.
I know. No, the point I'm asking is there's one thing that should be used as a tool for your own spiritual development. It is not measured by how religiously you practice or adhere to these ritualistic practices. That's not the measure. So what is that one quintessential way you could measure your spiritual transformation, and you are the best judge of that? What is that?
At a surface level, I would say self-awareness, I would think, is what I think. As are you self-aware of that you are actually making changes to yourself, your mind? Are you intellectually able to process that? That's so I start by saying, are you self-aware of that first? Which people generally are not.
Self-aware, yeah. In fact, in particular, in general, you can say that. In being in particular, in context of the West, how well are you able to keep your mind under your control?
Right.
Because whatever you do, if your mind is not where you want it to be, if your mind is not under your control, I'm sorry, you're not spiritually developed. You either make it or break it there. You're a pass or fail on one aspect. And this can be measured right through as a spiritual infant to a spiritually established person. You can use this as a tool. You would never, ever go wrong. Trust me. Trust the Shastras. Trust these great men. You just check how much have you got a control over your mind. And if you've got that, doesn't matter. You may know the Shastras. You may not be able to parrot these verses. You may not be ritualistic, but you are a very highly spiritually evolved person. This one is a very powerful tool. So in fact, I would go to the extent and say spirituality boils down to this. It's defined by this mind control. Everything else is a paraphernalia. Everything else aids you to achieve this. So if you have achieved this, the rest of it is redundant, to be frank with you. You don't have to. Okay, Ji?
Yes.
All right. Yes, Varshama.
So, Guruji, in other words, could it be feeling peaceful? the other measurement?
The measurement, when we say of the mind, you're saying you should be peaceful. Now, are you peaceful now?
No, so what I was saying, so
I got you. I got you. I'm asking you a
Okay.
question. Are you peaceful now?
yeah, at this moment, yeah.
Yes. So I'm agree with you. You are not disturbed. You don't look tensed or worried. You're quite peaceful. Now, just for information, are you still at your home or you're still at your daughter's place?
No, at home.
At home. Okay. I'm sorry to be taking this example. Okay. But please, you have to pardon me for this. Suddenly you get a call from your daughter who's away on a holiday that, Mama, I just got a call that my house has been robbed. Just an example. Anything can happen in life, but just you get a call that house has been robbed, people have ransacked the house and everything has been destroyed. We have lodged the reports, we have got our friends to attend and they're doing necessary thing, but just for informing you. As I'm talking, you get this text message. All right. Now I ask you, how peaceful, how calm is your mind? Would it remain the same or would it be ruffled?
Yeah. So yeah, so in this, you're right. In that case, I will have to control it. I mean,
You will
I
have to control it. Yes, you will have to control it. And how well you have control will depend whether your mind is calm or ruffled. Am I right?
Yeah.
And what would depend whether you're able to keep your mind calm? How spiritually mature you are.
Mm.
Right? But now you say, so my mind is calm now. This apparent calmness that most of us seem to experience most of the time we are quite calm until somebody comes and gives a small nudge or comes and interferes with you, isn't it? Comes and disturbs your peace. Now, all what I'm saying is most of the time we find ourselves peaceful and happy. That happiness we experience is dependent on external factors. Remember this. The happiness that we experience are dependent on external factors. And how do you know how dependent you are on external factors? Test yourself whether the external factor, does it really affect you? Take the example that your daughter's house has been robbed. Does it really affect me? If it doesn't affect me, then you can say, oh, my mind is the opposite of being dependent is self-sufficient. I don't need the external factors to keep myself peaceful and happy. I am contented and peaceful within myself, by myself. So the external factors are not a prop. The external factors are not a prop to my internal happiness.
True.
And then you keep adding examples, you keep relating to your day-to-day experiences. When things don't go the way you want, when things don't happen the way you wish, how does your mind behave? Stock market is not doing well. Somebody is flinging a remark and there's a certain opinion formed about you in your social circle. Let's say somebody is trying to blemish your personality, just create a scar on your personality. How would you take that? And it's amongst your close friends, your very dear friends, or there's some talk within your family circle. Does it give ripples of agitation, or your mind is, it's all right? That's how the world is. Would you philosophize and keep your mind calm, or you would react to it? That is a test. Again, this is what I'm saying. So I wanted to expand on it when you said your mind is calm. Most of the time, mind is calm because everything is fine. One or two factors go out of place, then you know the reality. Then you become like I'm reminded of this in Andhra, or the state where I belong from, Telangana and Andhra. There is I don't know, Srinivas Reddy, you must tell me this. There were these dolls which used to be called as Kondapalli Bommalu.
Yes.
I think they come from the village called Kondapalli.
Yes, yes, Guruji.
Okay, so my guess is not wrong. You remember these dolls, isn't it? They used to come those days.
Yes.
So it used to be small dolls, and it's made by a village family, and they all small miniature dolls. Every part of the body is actually attached, so they are independent. And if you just touch them, you find the limbs are moving, the heads are moving, and the torso is moving. So it's all dancing, but it's a stationary doll. So we end up becoming like Kondapalli Bommalu. That's the comparison I'm saying. Kondapalli Bommalu means you are dancing to the tunes of external forces acting on you.
Okay.
We end up dancing to the tunes of what the world throws at you. Other thing is you become like a Statue of Liberty or like a lighthouse. The Statue of Liberty, or any statue for that matter, the waves can come and lash onto the statue, but you you stand like a rock of Gibraltar. You like a firmly kutastha. The Sanskrit word for that is kutastha, means you're rock seated. You don't rock like an unstable boat because of the waves, the crests and the troughs of the waves don't rock you. You're firmly seated. So either you're like a Kondapalli Bomma, or you are like a Statue of Liberty or Statue of Unity. You can create many statues will come. So what are you? So if you are like a Kondapalli Bomma, you are dependent on external factors. If you are like a Statue of Liberty, you are self-sufficient. You are not dependent on anything external. And sadly, all of us are dependent on external factors to a certain extent. None of us are 0% dependent. None of us are 0% self-sufficient. This is where you got to check to what extent are you dependent on external things. And one fundamental thing we got to remember is we have no control over external factors. We fail to forget that. This is the thumb rule you must understand in life. We have no control over external factors. So in effect, I am selling my peace and happiness to factors over which I have no control. So if I have not built my life on this principle, I will be very much vulnerable. So many things happen and I have no control over how things happen. I have no control over the traffic. But tell me externally, what is it that you can control? Yes, sir. Yeah, you're still on. Please go ahead.
Only your mind.
Correct. Even that, to a large extent, we can't, isn't it? We are struggling. Most of us are struggling. But beyond ourselves, can we claim to have a control of anything? So can you control your wife's behavior? How she behaves? You wish you could, isn't it?
No.
All of us have only been wishing. Rajima is saying the same here. Huh? What is that?
We also voice the same.
I'm not being any gender specific here. I'm saying in any relationship, I wish I can have control over what other person does. So we have no control. You have no control over the weather. You have no control over how the government behaves. You don't have control over the stock market. You don't have control of if the neighbor chooses to throw a party over a weekend. You have no control over what that person does. You have no control over anything. And yet, if you depend on factors over which you have no control, your life is at the mercy of those external factors. It is very sad state of affairs. It should be very concerning to you. Literally, we are like Kundapalli Bomma. Example, Raghu Garu, you must write this example. You may share with your friends. I have attended some Kabir Doha classes. So what did you learn? You say, I learned not to be like a Kundapalli Bomma. Did you write down that example?
Yeah, I can write it down.
You not can write it down, you must write it down.
Yeah, I'm ready.
But you're following Raghuji?
Yeah, very interesting and following very keenly. I'm to this.
Good. Very good. So Varshama, are you good on that? Right. So Kashish, is the time now for me to ask you to quickly summarize what I've said so far. I'm missing Ramji today.
Guruji, when you say summarize all you've said so far, you mean everything about this verse
Oh my God.
or just the last few sentences?
The last little bit.
Oh, Guruji, you said we have no control over external factors. So if you sell your happiness to things you cannot control, basically you're leaving yourselves vulnerable.
Isn't that very important, Kashish?
Very.
Yesterday, somebody was very disturbed and was sharing the sentiments, how disturbed that person was. And all my message to that person was, just forgive. Just forgive for what that person has done, what has happened, and just move on. Because if you don't, it causes great sorrow and grief within. Because you can't predict, you can't expect the world to behave in a particular way. So I understand, Kashish, that the world has got what it does is it has got its own nature, and everything and every being is very true to its nature. Like you park your car, especially in the summer, which is slowly soaring high in India. You park your car on midday without a shelter for a couple of hours, and you go back into the car. It is like you're entering an oven, a mini furnace. Everything you touch, everything you lay your hands on is like a piping hot. What would people tend to do, Kashish, naturally?
Probably turn on the AC, Guruji, or open the
That
windows,
you-
try to let it out.
That you will do. That much common sense I have, Kashish. You know? But what do people do the moment they get into the car?
They start fanning themselves, maybe sweating, maybe being like, oh, it's so hot.
This is what I wanted. You start complaining that it is hot. Shoo, shoo,
Mhm.
shoo, 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 shoo. So hot, so hot. You complain, don't you? Hardly you come across anybody who say, oh, look at this beautiful summer. It is so beautiful and hot. Huh? You wouldn't see anybody. If you at all, you see somebody, immediately accept him as your guru. That is the only fellow making sense to you. What else can you expect summer to be? Summer will be hot. Why am I complaining about it? Huh? You are baking a bread. Won't you put your bread you put your bread to bake in an oven or in a freezer? Kashish, what would you do? I come to know you're a lovely cook. That will be another reason to come and visit you. I heard you bake also, no? When you bake, you put it in the oven or in the freezer?
The oven.
You need the heat of the oven to bake, isn't it? Would you complain of the oven? No, isn't it? So don't complain, my dear.
Okay.
So this is another way to measure how your mind. So let's take a quick checklist to understand the nature of the mind. We have mentioned about it at different contexts, but just quickly capture what is the mind, because we're talking about getting a control over your mind. So what is it that the mind presents itself? I keep asking each one of you, tell me one point of the mind which is said, so don't repeat it, because mind has got different aspects. To begin with, if I can ask Harish, when I ask you the nature of the mind, what's the thing that comes to your mind or comes to your intellect?
Guruji, can you hear me?
Yes, Harish.
Yeah. What comes to my mind is the nature of the mind. It's to constantly wander away in many, many various thoughts. It's multiple thoughts coming.
All right. One nature of the mind. The first nature is your mind wanders. So you are understanding the nature of the mind so that you can discipline it. You can get a control over it. So one nature of the mind is it wanders. Where does it wander? Invariably, it wanders away into the past worries or future anxieties. So the mind presents itself as a challenge that it wanders away from the present. So if you have a control, you will keep your mind in the present at all times, not let it wander. All right, very good. Now, I'll ask Dhanya. Yes, Dhanya.
Yeah.
Tell me what one other nature of the mind other than wandering.
Wanting something, desiring.
Explain yourself. You're very true. Yes.
Always, something that you don't have, wanting that. What I don't have, I want.
Correct. A desire is for something that you do not have. And your mind constantly does a chant of what you don't have. For example, you don't have iPhone 12 with you. So what will the mind do?
Think about it.
Mom told me that you're a good singer.
Mom is a good singer, not me.
Not you, okay. But at least for the sake of mom, you must sing me the song of iPhone 12. How your mind will, no, that is what it is. No, mind will sing and chant of what you do not have. I'm only going by what you said. Now, how will the mind sing? Or shall we surrender to the singer amongst us? Reddy Garu will sing for us. Sir, you simply can't surrender by doing namaskar. You can't escape.
I simply
this.
surrender, Guruji.
No, this is not. You can't accept. You are not allowed to just surrender like this and let go.
August of visitors are on the board.
So the mind keeps it becomes a soliloquy almost. It keeps constantly keeps going on. Silently, you keep going on, So it's not, and how many desires does one have? A lay person in general. Dhanya.
Endless desires. Something or the other will keep coming up.
Endless desires. Something or other keeps distracting the mind. And if the mind keeps chanting this mantra of what it does not have and what it wants, what would be the state of the mind? Can you imagine? Such a disturbed state, isn't it?
Yep.
It is not happy at all. It wants, it believes its happiness isn't something it does not have, and it constantly keeps chanting. So what's the solution to that? Must learn to be
discipline.
content, discipline the mind to be content with what you have.
Yeah.
So I'm giving the problem, the nature of the mind, and a quick solution as well. First, we said the mind wanders into the past or the future. You must learn to keep it in the present at all times. Second, you said it keeps desiring. It desires for things you don't have. The solution for that is learn to train and culture the mind to be content and happy with what you have. Be thankful and grateful for what you have, than complaining what you do not have.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yep.
So very good, very apt, perfect, Dhanya, good. Now, RPG, what's the third nature of the mind which you should be mindful of?
Hari Om. I'm not sure, Guruji. The first and second ones that I had, the third one I'm not sure of. So it's never satisfied. So it's insatiable.
Which we
wanders.
said to keep.
Yeah, which we said. Yep. So
Which we
the
said.
second one, yep. First one was it wanders. Third one, not coming to me, Guruji.
Not coming to you. Okay. All right, no problem. Think along. Sushmama.
Yes, Guruji, can you hear me now?
Very clear.
I think I feel my mind lingers a lot over good and bad, both.
Okay.
Even if I get a bad news, then actually I can't get rid of it. It keeps bothering me. And even if I have something good, it keeps lingering. Maybe I enjoy thinking about it. So both ways, I think the mind lingers.
I perfectly agree with you, but this lingering tendency is also closely connected to the wandering nature of the mind. It's almost in parallel to it, I would say. So I would still put lingering or wandering. It's still on to something. It just holds on to something. I want to put it under that bracket for now, but there's a slightly different element as well. You can read there. Yes, ma'am.
Guruji, the question is, how do I stop this lingering?
How to stop this lingering is to remain in the present at all times. You must learn to let go. You must learn to snap the mind of what it's getting carried away with. So that quality. So whenever the mind starts going away, it has happened because you have lost control with the intellect. So the moment, as Sriniji said, the moment you are able to bring a certain amount of awareness, man, what am I doing to myself? Why am I getting carried away over something which has happened outward in the outside world? Why am I getting lost with that? Let me bring my mind back to the present. You will wander until you're not conscious. The moment you become conscious, you snap it there. So if you continue this exercise, the ability to bring in that awareness becomes faster. you will realize sooner than later. Otherwise, sometimes minutes, hours, days can go by. You're unnecessarily brooding over it. Arey yaar, why am I allowing my mind to unnecessarily waste its valuable resource and energy into something? Is happened. Hua jo hua. It is done and gone. Why am I wasting my time? What is happening only is my energy is being wasted and my mind is being disturbed. Other than that, there's nothing I gain out of it. So the moment the awareness kicks in, the alertness kicks in, that very moment you'll snap it. Now the question is how soon you can. So this study will help you to realize it sooner than later, so that you'll be able to snap it. So that could be the solution to this tendency of the mind to linger or wander. All right, Ma?
Yes, I think the awareness is very important, that that I'm wasting my time over nothing, which I shouldn't be doing.
Correct, correct. It's like while you're driving on a freeway, on a highway, you're so engrossed, enjoying the music and the beautiful scenery, you just take a wrong turn at a particular junction and you keep driving, not realizing that you've taken a wrong turn until the passenger sitting, the pillion driver, hey, don't you think we're going the wrong direction? Oh yeah. Till then you are happily enjoying the ride, not realizing you're going the wrong direction. The moment you realize, you'll quickly come back to the right, take a detour, and come back to the highway. The moment the awareness comes in, you know where you're going wrong. Something like that. Okay, Ma?
Thank you, Guruji.
Most welcome. Sriniji, what is the other nature of the mind? I can think of 3 more, so you can guess of the 3.
3 more. Wow.
But you are only being asked 1. Why are you? You're not, no pressure on you, sir. Only 1 you are giving, that not 3.
Well, some of it already been covered. So that's
Only
why
2. Only 2 has been covered to make you feel comfortable. If that comforts you.
You know, the way, I mean, the one you said, it resonates a lot. The past and anxiety of the future. To me, those are the 2, I would say, pillars of how the mind really therefore wanders. I mean, that seems to be the root cause, is what I'm thinking. The output of that is the wandering mind. Worrying about anxiety of the future, as you said, and what about the past? Worrying about the past, or just fretting about the past, more about. To me, those are the 2 what I see triggers, and I use the same to some of the examples you gave to Varshaji, for example, or Mahendraji. Whether it's family, friends, those instances, some are in the present, some are in the future, some are in the past, right? Those, I think, are the root causes, and that's what creates the consternation of the mind. I think that's what I think it is. I don't see 3 more in my mind.
You please wait and hear and jot down. Don't just hear. You got to jot it down. But
Okay.
I agree with you that this wandering nature can be quite a concern, because it can sap you. It can really destroy your peace, isn't it?
It does. I mean, you also asked, I think Danyaji, wants and desires, the iPhone 12, for example. That's a desire. So to me, that's the anxiety of the future, so to speak. Or it could be a part that, hey, I did not have something behind in the, it's a comparison that in the past that somebody had it and you're not, and therefore the mind is consternation. I go back to these two foundational things of the past and the future, both of which you can't control, you can only learn from.
No, I would leave you to do that mind mapping and trying to fit in where you feel, which way you understand. I'm not saying you're wrong, sir. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm only trying to say that, whichever way you're able to visualize how the mind behaves, I would give you all that freedom to do so. And ultimately, you must understand how the mind behaves. That's the bottom line of it. Where it stems from, which is the main area of concern, that's subjective, but I'm completely with you. But there, as I said, there are few more nature which I would really bring it out. Okay.
I know Mahendraji wants to talk, but maybe it's the emotions, which is there for them,
The third element I want to talk is the nature of the mind is to become emotional.
Yeah.
So the third is emotions vis-a-vis becoming emotionally affected by the emotions. You must understand the nature of the mind. It becomes emotional. When does the mind become emotional, Ridigaru?
Guruji, I think I just thought of saying that. I got connected.
I know. I could note that. Yes.
My answer has been leaked already.
No, I'm glad.
So, highly emotional, Guruji. I think that's the most I could see, the very, very sensitive all the moments, living about what we go through, the desires, carving, indulging and lingering, and the most of the cases. We are very, very sensitive with most of the things what's been happening around. So they're the counterforce for all to control these emotions is an intellect. So we need to bring in a continuous manner, like we do acceleration and as well as a braking when we're driving the vehicle. So I always bring in this analogy that the emotions are like an accelerator which keeps going there. So intellect is something like brake, where we have to apply the brake and bring back into the present situation.
Bring a sense of control. Yes, you rightly said. So when your emotions are not under the control of the intellect, you become emotional. This is the rationale behind it. When you have an emotion and when you have no control over your emotion, you become emotional. Now, being emotional is a state where you're affected by the emotions. Being emotional is a state where you're affected by the emotions, and that is arrived, or you end up in that state when you have no control with your intellect. Now, it doesn't matter whether the emotion is positive or negative. You should have a control over your emotions. Doesn't matter, I repeat, write down this very clearly. Doesn't matter whether your emotion is positive or negative, but you must have a control over your emotion. Now, you may have a positive emotion, but no control over it brings about a negative result. You may have a positive emotion, have no control over it, but brings about a negative result. You may have a negative emotion, you have a perfect control over it, brings about a positive result. I repeat for the sake that you must take note of it. You may have a positive emotion and have no control over it, brings about a negative consequence or result. You may have a negative emotion, but you have a perfect control over it. It brings about a positive result. Now, going with the first case scenario, a positive emotion, have no control over it, brings about a negative result. Take an example of a love a parent has towards his child or the children. in the name of love, what they end up doing, they end up what is known as pampering. They pamper them to a point of fault that they make them monsters. So as they grow up, they sit and demand and start bossing around. You don't understand that? After the class, see the movie Boss Baby. Kashish, am I right? The only person who I can think has watched the movie is you. Everybody else is not of this generation. There's a generation gap. As I keep hearing from my daughter, she keeps saying, Daddy, there's a generation gap. Oh, is it? By that way, I know I'm older. Am I right, Kashish? The name of the movie?
I actually have not also seen the movie Guruji, but from what I've seen of the
generation gap. This is the generation gap I'm talking about.
But from what I've seen of the trailers, I think your description is very apt.
I think the movie is called The Boss Baby. It's a cartoon. It's an animation movie. It is very hilarious. In fact, it's fun to watch, but it just brings about the psychological element I'm talking about, you know, how the baby becomes a boss and how it keeps bossing the family. The parents are literally at the mercy of the little toddler. And my God, it's fun. And you don't have, once you have the eyes to see, you see it happening everywhere. You see the parents gloat at their child as if their child or grandchild is the only child or grandchild on earth. And they start dancing to the tunes because you've pampered them, you become a slave to it. So a positive emotion, you have no control of monitoring it, it brings about a negative result. Right? Now, think of a negative emotion, you have control, brings about a positive result. Anybody can think of an example? Or should I spell it out? Except Hariji. Yes, Hariji.
Modification of all desires, anger. If I can control my anger, that brings positive results. Jealousy, if I can control it, it brings positive results. All negative emotions.
Correct. I'll go with your first example of anger. When you have anger, you can use anger to correct someone, can't it? You may act as if you have lost your temper, but you actually not lost your temper. You're actually raising your temper. Just to alert someone that what is being done is not acceptable. In fact, so many times I had to get into that phase where Gayatri Ma has seen a few times in the institute. Correct, Gayatri Ma? She was shocked seeing what is going on, Guruji, she said almost. Correct, please, no nod head, please endorse it also.
Yes, Guruji. In fact, it was so furious that day. I didn't even go near you to even take your blessings. I stayed away.
Ayo. No, please come. I will not be frothing and fuming thereafter. Not that I'll be continuous. But the next moment after that, I was normal. Was it not?
Yes. Within 2 minutes after the person has left, it was normal.
Normal. I had to put on that face of fury, that face of non-acceptance. This can't go on. You can't do this thing. It's nonsense you guys are doing. I can't be sitting with him and chanting the Bhadram Karne Vishruyama Devaha. I can't be chanting invocation Ishavasya mantra to that fellow. I got to say, you fellas, what nonsense is going on? This is not acceptable. So you have to raise your voice, you may have to show your vent, you may have to express your disappointment and anger to them, but it is not lost. You have not lost your mental balance. Thereafter, you instantly become normal and you may have to take an important decision. You don't make a mess with the decision. You know, so let's say something else, a decision, you take the right decision. You don't repent thereafter. If you have lost control over anger, then you'll repent thereafter. But if you have a control over the emotion, you know that that person understands your disappointment and you are expressing it in a controlled manner. It's like you're racing, you're pushing the car to a certain limit, but you have not lost control. You may not drive or push your car at 200, 220. Please don't do that. But if you ever do that, you better make sure you have a perfect control. Only once in my life I pushed it to 220. I was driving from Malaysia to Singapore, and I used to drive at times, and it was a early morning, you know, and there's a Harish in there's a certain stretch, I can't recall before Ipoh or after Ipoh. It is a straight stretch of road, and I know that there are no speed jammers also. You know, nobody's there to jam, to check and find you. One of the trips I remember, and the car was new. I said nothing would go wrong. Hopefully so. Nothing went wrong. I'm glad sitting here now with you. And I pushed the car just to test it. Otherwise, you don't push your car, do you? But if you never push it, you have under perfect control. Similarly, when you are using these extreme emotions, when you have a control over them, you would not go wrong. So a negative emotion, a control over that brings about a positive result. Are you able to relate to the idea, Harish? What idea?
About you may have a negative emotion with perfect control over it.
Yeah, I thought you were talking. You're thinking about. I thought you're talking about driving. Oh.
Guruji, can I also try another attempt of another example just to understand more clearly?
Yeah, please.
Okay. For a negative emotion with perfect control, could it be also somebody very near and dear passes away and you're going through the negative emotion, but you have perfect control over that situation and you manage it very calmly despite somebody passing away who's very near and dear to you? Could that fall under this category as well, Guruji, or it's not in this context?
No, yes, absolutely. Where you feel the grief, you feel the sorrow, but you're not affected by it. You still find you have not lost your normalcy of life. But yet there has been a great tragedy of a near and dear. Many a time what happens when there's such a tragic loss, life becomes paralyzed.
Yes.
You can't conceive life without that person. Almost yes. You get a jolt, you get electrocuted, you get shocked. But when you have accepted that life is not permanent and it can happen to anybody, it doesn't paralyze you. So you have taken it in a stride, you accept it, but you still feel the loss. Yes. Not to feel is like to be like a piece of wood or stone, to be like a plant. No, you must feel. If you don't have a heart, you're inhuman. You must have the feelings of emotion. But it is animalistic to be affected by emotions. You never find an animal philosophizing that my master is very occupied with work. I know he's with a busy project. I hardly get to see him. Maybe he's very busy, so I'm not getting all the necessary love and attention from him. I shall wait until he has a time. I'll not disturb him. Would your pet ever think and rationalize this way on your behalf? Would it? Harish?
No.
A pet, your dog or your cat or your pet is unable to handle that lack of emotion. It's not able to handle it. It's affected by the lack of love. It's also affected by the love and attention it gets. It can't contain. When you give it the love, oh my God, it's jumping and licking and running all over. Almost you go and tell, it's calm down. It's okay. Now I've come back. I'm going to be with you. Calm down, calm down. Shh, shh. Don't you calm it down?
Yes.
It is affected by either grief of lack of attention or the joy of attention it gets. This is what is a life of an animal. Animal gets affected by emotions. But a human, you should be able to deal, you should be versatile with the variety of emotions, whether be it good or bad. Even charity, when you don't do charity with intellect, brings about wrong results.
Yes.
Another example of positive emotion, lack of control brings about negative results. I can go on. I'm only giving you a line of thought to think. Positive emotion, no control, negative result. Negative emotion, control, positive result. Fascinating. I tell you, we can run a seminar on it. Someday I would like to put my thoughts in writing, Gayatri Ma, Rajima. Maybe we should title, I have just even grabbed, I don't know whether the title of this exists. RPG, have you come across a title of this? The Wandering Mind?
I've not come across it, Guruji, but I think it's a great topic.
It would be a great topic, isn't it? So someday we'll take to writing of this just to understand the mind and its nature and just capture it. Can be a quick handy booklet, isn't it? It will be a very, very helpful tool. We should work on it, Rajima. Someday we will get to it. There's a lot of writing to be done. We shall certainly get there. All right. So Harish, are you good?
Yes, Guruji.
All right. Just to quickly finish the other two. Anybody can guess? Rajima, yes, you wanted to say something. Please, Rajima.
Guruji, I thought the mind feeds the ego and makes one very selfish, self-centered. Is that one of the...
See, ego is an attribute, or the definition of an ego is an arrogating thought. When you arrogate, a thought is ego. Same way, when you rationalize a thought, it's the intellect. The same way, when your mind is impulsive, it is the irrational or impulsive, it's the mind. So I wouldn't attribute the ego to the mind. It's another aspect of thought. I repeat, an arrogating thought is ego. I did that work. It is me that did that. You're arrogating it to yourself. That arrogating tendency to a thought is ahankar, ego. Irrational or impulsive thought is the mind. So, Sriniji, it was actually 4 pending. So, impulsive. This is one of the natures of the mind, is to be impulsive. Impulsive is how do you describe impulsive? Yeah, Sriniji, how do you describe impulsive?
It's just reacting in the moment without any thought.
Without any considerable thought given to it, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And that's the nature of the mind. You don't pause, you don't think before you say or you act. So as you get a control over your mind, you become less impulsive. You say, but you say with, it may be immediate. But since you've gone through the process of being rational, it is no more impulsive. It is very deep thought backing it. Like when I, just for example, when I'm answering or when I'm with you all, going through this satsang, it could be immediate. My comments could be immediate, but it's not impulsive. They're not impulsive reactions. They are thoughts which have been pondered and reflected. So it is so much absorbed that it becomes almost impulsive, but not impulsive. It is, in fact, it's impromptu. It's almost, it comes immediate. That's not impulsive. Impulsive is the mind. There's no rationality to it. One of the powerful tendencies of the mind is to impulsive. So far we have said it wanders or lingers, it develops desires, it becomes emotional. Fourth, it is impulsive in nature. The fifth nature of the mind is it develops attachment. Yes, Rajima. One of the powerful tendencies of the mind is to watch out is it develops attachments. Dhanya, I think she had to leave, but Dhanya said that mind develops desires for things you do not have. At the same time, mind develops attachment to things you have. And attachment is best described as, how do you describe attachment? Attachment is a possessive attitude of I and my. It's a possessiveness towards your possessions. My house. You can have the house and you can remain detached to the house, isn't it? Why do you have to have a house and be attached to the house? You can have a job and be detached to your job. Why have you got to be attached to a job? You can have a family and be detached to the family. There's no need to be attached to the family. So attachment is a possessiveness towards your possessions. It's nothing but a selfish relationship to your objects and beings. Attachment is a selfish relationship to your objects and beings. A minus. And wherever there is attachment, it causes extreme pain. That's just an extension. But the fifth point is your mind develops attachments. And lastly, your mind entertains unreasonable expectations. They're slightly different from desires. It develops unreasonable expectations. So how do you deal with unreasonable expectations? Is to rationalize them and take a stock. Like I said, you want summer to be cool. Understand summer will be hot. Get your air conditioned service and enjoy the air conditioning. Don't complain of the summer being hot. As simple as that. Makes sense. Enjoy it. At least in this part of the country, this part of the world, we use aircon only 2-3 months a year. Rest of the year, we don't even, it's just something which adorns the wall. So at least 2 months in a year, you're invested into it, use it well, man. Okay, electricity bill will go high. Why did you invest in air conditioning? 2 months in a year use. Why are you worried of air conditioning bill, electricity bill? And use it and sleep in peace and live in comfort. You know, simple things like you will complain. You grumble. So wanders, it entertains desires, it becomes emotional, it's impulsive, it develops attachment, it is unreasonable expectations. This gives you an idea as to what your mind is up to every moment. And all the ritualistic practices you're doing it so diligently, Kabirji says, is of no use. You go and tonsure your head, you break a coconut in a temple, you go to spiritual pilgrimages, you may do many things. You continue to do that, but they are only the non-essentials of religion. But once you are embarking on the essential practices, the result is your mind becomes mature. You have a control over your mind with an intellect, and all these, your mind doesn't wander. You will remain contented in the peaceful in the present. You have emotions, but you will not become emotional. You will become more rational, less impulsive. You will live a life of detachment. You will also have reasonable expectations. These are all the solutions, 6 solutions to the 6 problems the mind presents itself. There could be more. There could be 1 or 2 more points, but you have an idea. Yes, Mahindraji, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to add, mind has a proclivity to blaming others or external factors.
Blaming others or
other factors.
that could we not put it on unreasonable expectations? I said, you're complaining that the summer is hot. You've not taken a rational stock of what is the weather now.
Yeah.
So you're unreasonable, means you are not being rational. So you complain, you grumble, you start finding faults, that kind of an attitude, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
So it could be parked under unreasonable expectations.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jim. Procrastination is, I would put it more as a tamasic nature, sir. I wouldn't call it as a nature of the mind. Mind has got 3 types of natures: sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. I can't say the mind by itself is procrastinating. That's not the nature of the mind. It's a tamasic state. A tamas reflects as procrastination. So there's a small adjustment or correction you could make, sir. Okay, sir. And I did mention Danya Ma had to leave, but as she says, she had communicated to Padmini Ma that she thought of attachment. Glad. So these are the tendencies of the mind which constantly keep tormenting you. All right, you got to watch out. And yes, I thought I missed it. Tinkima, thank you for saving. The 7th tendency of the mind is it constantly operates on likes and dislikes. Raga dvesha. So sapta, the 7-fold nature of the mind you got to be watching out all the time. 7th is likes and dislikes. I'm so glad, Tinkima, you said that. Yes, Sriniji.
How about mind is sometimes stubborn? Where do you, is that, how do I categorize that? Is it part of the 7 or is it?
Stubborn or rigid, is it?
Yep.
That is the tendency of, it could be parked under attachment. You're very attached to your own thinking, your own point of view. You don't want to change. You're not, if you're detached, you don't impose your views on others. You're very rigid. Rigidity is stemming from the attachment. So it can be branched under that.
Got it.
Okay. It's a very interesting exercise. I would recommend you all to strongly prepare a chart. Please do this. Prepare a chart, the nature of the mind, mention these 7 elements, and commensurate to each, you start analyzing your own personality and how your mind behaves. This process of self-analysis, I think, Srimiji, you did say that. So this element, this exercise of self-analysis, I would strongly recommend each one of you to do that. In fact, so much so, I would want you to do it until we meet again in this satsang. Please do it, and privately you can share it with me. It's something which will be between you and me, but that's only to ensure, I'm ensuring that you have done your homework. So each of you should do it and share it with me privately. So you have connected, I know that you have done your homework. Again, it's only for your benefit, not for my information. But at least you do that, it'll help you. Please do that. I request you all to do this exercise. Even Raghu Garu, even though you're coming for the first time, I think you have not lost anything, sir. You know, I'm sure you have followed what we said today. Okay, sir, you followed, isn't it?
Yeah, I followed.
So just these elements and try and see how your mind behaves. So this is actually taking a scan of your mental personality, inner personality. So you know, when you take a scan, you know what is the state of the mind, how healthy or unhealthy your mind is. And it's very important, it's paramount. Your spiritual health is measured by how healthy or unhealthy your mind is. And then try and grade yourself, how many points you give, how healthy your mind is. And once you do that, this exercise, you could do it once in every 3 months, because you're constantly striving to control or discipline or conquer your mind. And then you see, oh yeah, I'm able to keep my mind far. I'm less impulsive. I'm that less attached. I don't have that many worries which I used to have. You start seeing a change because you're working on yourself. It's like you go to your gym or you go through an exercise regime and you test your body mass index, or you check yourself, your weight, or you check your weight, how healthy you're becoming. Exactly the same way you could do this. I tell you, this can be a very wholesome exercise and can be a very beautiful offering, Rajima. I think we should do this with this kind of an exercise. It can be a very unique offering. Nothing original though, but something which we can always work on. Please do this and we'll come back. All right. So we'll conclude with the Shanti Mantra. Soumyama is asking how to make the mind forget and forgive the past and come to the present. It is again the mature, how mature, how strong is your intellect, so that you will you understand the futility in living in the past. It is futile, but if you allow your thoughts to remain there, it's only going to hurt you. So learn to be in the present and forgive and let go of the past. You can't do, past is dead and done. Why worry over it? By worrying over it, you're making your present miserable. All right. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.